Okay, so today's talk is on karma, on an aspect of karma that gets people rather confused. It seems to be a common misperception that karma can be cancelled out or evaded, or simply put, just because you do good karma, that doesn't mean that the consequence of your bad karma is removed. And just because you do bad karma, that doesn't mean that the reward of your good karma will not come to you. Both will continue to play out. But I find that most people seem to think that it's a sort of neutralizing factor, that I did something I shouldn't have, then I went on a pilgrimage or I donated to charity, and therefore the thing that I shouldn't have done is now taken care of. That comes from a misunderstanding of karma. It comes from a sort of Abrahamic view of redemption, and I am afraid we are a very blunt culture. We are a very hard culture in that there is no redemption, there is only consequence. So if you do good things, if you do good karma, you will progress. If you do bad things, you will regress. And both can play out simultaneously. One does not cancel out the other. The bad things you have done do not cancel out the good things you have done, and the good things you have done cannot compensate for the bad things you have done. Because karma, as I have defined, is action consequence loop. The action will have a consequence, and God Himself cannot stop it. Karma is the law of the universe. The Devatas also are subject to karma. Shiva himself is subject to karma, if he allows it. The reason why he is covered in ash is because at every moment, whatever karma he has generated, he burns it. He burns it interiorly. That is why he doesn't take ash from the external. It's his own body that is burning. It's his own karma that is burning, which is why he is covered in ash. He is the one person who is free of the consequences of the karma, because he is so intense. When you are Jivan Mukta, you are just seeing out your prarabdha karma. New karma doesn't stick to you. But Shiva or the Devatas, they have certain responsibilities, they have certain roles in the universe, and that also creates karma, and that is of course meta level. We are not talking about that. We are talking about what happens to the ordinary normal person. And this is a unfortunate misconception that people have, that you can dodge the bullet. You can't. In exceptional circumstances, a guru or an enlightened being or a devta might deflect some of that karma to you, might work it out in themselves, or make some arrangement with some tree or animal or something to take that karma, but the karma goes somewhere and it will play out. Now, why would a tree or an animal take the karma? Because by taking on that karma, they get an opportunity to evolve. The reason I am saying this, normally I wouldn't say it, but since Swami Rama in his book, not in his book, in the book written by his disciple, apprentice to a Himalayan master, they have mentioned how Swami Rama took out the cancer of one of his disciples and then carried it in his body, where he had all the signs of cancer for 4-5 months, came to India and gave it to a tree. He made an agreement with the tree to help it to progress. Now, I'm not going to get into the mechanics of all that, because you require to be of an exceptional level of energy to be able to do that, but it is possible. The reason I mention this story is because the karma that caused the cancer had to work itself out. Whether in the person it happened, or in Swami Rama, or in the tree, but it had to work itself out. It could not be stopped. So many schools of yoga, they advise acceptance of what is happening because they understand this. You can minimize, you can dive, you can turn the channel of karma into something less destructive. You can minimize its impact. Instead of having every bone in your body shattered, you might just have skin scraped off your knee. Yes, that much can be done. But once something is set in motion, it is very difficult, which is why it is much easier to get at karma when it is in potential, when it is still in seed form, and you can finish it there. Because once something has come into prarabdha, once something has come into active manifestation, it is a hellish business. It is a hellish business, and certain people who understand these things but don't have much integrity and don't have much compassion, I know a case where the person is a sort of occult person, not a yogi, and knows that husband is going to go through some trouble and may even die, and regularly shifts that karma into pets. That so every 3-4 years they have a new dog which declines and suffers. Now I wouldn't go near such an option no matter how dearly I loved another human being, because the karmic backlash for that would be so enormous. But people do that. People feel entitled to use other living beings. If you really knew the trouble that you cause when you put even a grain of rice into your mouth, if you could feel the life energy in that grain of rice, you would stop all your arguments about vegetarianism. Because that grain of rice and that seed struggles just as much as a live animal. All of life lives by feeding off other life, and only the giants have the courage to take it to its ultimate logical conclusion and do the Sallekhana and starve themselves to death. They are honest in that. They are very honest in that we cannot live without. Now to that extent, what can be done? That is the way biology functions. That is the way living things function. We draw nutrition from other things. So that is not very deep karma. That is not karma that is. But if you really understood it, if you really understood how much life is there even in the smallest thing, and that we consume it, and then when we consume it, we are actually killing it. We are killing it so that we might live. You'd become very conscious of how much you eat, because so is there no consequence for doing that? Yes, but it's a mild consequence. One of the problems with alcohol is that every sip of alcohol is millions of life forms, because alcohol is made by fermenting yeast. So there are millions and millions of life forms that had to die. So every sip is dealing with millions of life forms, and that's why it doesn't end well. Drinking never ends well. There can be a very spirited contest for a few years, maybe even decades, but it never ends well. Because the karmic price is ultimately too much. That karmic price is what causes alcoholism, that is what causes the deterioration physically and mentally of the person. The karmic price is too much. Now there are ways around that. I am not going to tell people, because if you tell people who are not ready, the little karmic bypasses, they start misusing. But do not think that no, this mindset is actually propagated by our Jyotish people, our astrologers. Something bad is going on, so they immediately have rings and they have pujas and they have pariharams or upais. Yes, the two, pariharams and upais. If you feed a crow, if you give bananas to the cow, then this whatever is happening will. Well, I'm not saying there is no point in doing those things. All pariharams and all upais do have some yogic reason behind it. But if you are already in the middle of the stream, that moment you can't turn the current back. You have to see it through. Why do we insist on doing yoga, meditation, pranayama? Because the disease that is latent within you, the disease that is karmically latent within you, your pranayama can destroy it before it ever has a chance to manifest. The weakness that is latent within you, the physical illness, the physical weakness that is latent within you, the scope of bad luck that is going to break out in your life and cause you to lose your resources, cause you to lose your home, we can get rid of all of that early. While karma cannot be cancelled out, we can do many things. We can break it, we can dissolve it, we can burn it. But once it comes into manifestation, then things are different. Once it comes into manifestation, so the whole aim of yoga is to get to the entire bank of potential, the entire sabija karma, the entire lifetime's mother load that we have, which can be released and dissolve it totally. Fry the seeds, because some of them are already in the form of bijam, seeds. They are waiting to be manifested. Those have to be fried. The basic capital that is piled up, that can be dissolved. But the seeds that are already within your consciousness, those have to be fried. These are all little technical. I am not getting into how it is to be done. Any decent yogic process works at the karmic level. Any decent yogic process works at the karmic level for this reason, because if you just allow it to flow out, already in manifestation, almost impossible to turn around and transform. If a process is already in manifestation, if a packet of karma is already in manifestation, very, very difficult to turn it around and transform it. Before it manifests, can we completely dissolve it? Yes, that's possible. It's difficult, but it's possible. So should we stop doing good things therefore, since it makes no difference? No, not at all, because the positive things you do will add up. They will change your samskaras. They will send your entire karmic stream into a different direction. Why Atha Yoga Anushasanam? Why they are asking yoga as an Anushasanam? Why the discipline of yoga? Because if you are in Anushasanam, your entire samaskara will start flowing and your entire karmic direction starts becoming different. And once the karmic direction is different, then the disasters that come with the unfolding of karma become different. They become less, they become minimized, or they even evaporate completely. So the Anushasana is needed for that reason. You need to get into the habit of engaging with your karma in a reasonable manner, in an aware manner, in a conscious manner. But this superstition that people have, that I can just go to a temple and it will be dropped, or I can go to the Ganga and I can take a dip and it will all go away. Yes, I am not saying it won't happen, but it requires exceptional level of belief and exceptional level of Shakti to make use of the waters of the Ganga. Most people don't have it. There is an old joke that when the person goes to enter the Ganga, all his sins, all the papam, they exit the body and squat by the river bank. So even before you go into the water, they are out. Because they know if you go into the water, they'll die. So they squat over there, you do your bath and you come out and they all go back. Right in. Even in the Bible, Jesus had once said that you have devils in your home and you expel them, and then 7 worse devils will come and take up that empty space. So tearing out karma is dangerous because it leaves a gap, and that gap will be filled with something, which is why in yoga we are not allowed to heal, because healing is interference with the karmic process. If a certain disease process is already flown out and you heal it, all right, you remove it. But karmically, in the unfoldment of the life, there is now a potential, there is a space, there is a gap, which this illness should have filled up, and something much worse will be released from your sabija karma. So the first thing that yogis are told is, no, you are not allowed to heal. Only the Satgurus are allowed to heal. The only persons who are allowed to heal are the Sadgurus. Even somebody like Ramana Maharishi in the end stopped it, because when you do healing like that, you have to go into a very particular specific kind of samadhi to cure your body of what you have just done. And he got tired of doing it. It's a very specific kind of samadhi where you put the whole karmic process into fast forward. It takes about 5 hours each time. And he simply got tired of doing it. I have spoken very extensively on this healing and karma, that yogis are not allowed to heal. It's one of my earlier talks 2 years back. The reason why they tell you to be aware of what you're doing, the reason why they tell you not to go and do self-indulgent things is because of the consequence. At the moment you may get away with it, but it's waiting. You have done something that you shouldn't, you have acted and behaved in ways you should not, and it will bite you one day. Nobody gets away with it. And karma does not play out in one human lifetime, it plays out across multiple human lifetimes. And then that bad luck becomes part of your vasana samskara, and there you are now habituated to it, and you attract more and more of that same vibration. Because we attract what we are. If you train yourself to be a violent person, you will consistently find yourself in violent lifetimes doing violent things, and you're just devolving, you're literally devolving, you're going down the scale of consciousness rather than going up the scale of consciousness. Even Sri Aurobindo was once asked this, how come Dakus are great devotees? And he said, what does bhakti have to do with being a Daku? When they do the Daka, when they do the dacoity, they will get the karma for that. But when they go to the temple and they make the offering, that is also sincere. Both are actions, both actions have consequences. One action will have positive consequences, the other action will have negative consequences, that's all. What does it entail for people like us in yoga? It means we have to do everything with awareness. Do people really need to be told don't do bad things? I mean, I find this to be really... Children and animals know what is good and what is bad. Do people need to be frightened with the threat of karmic repercussion? Can you not do it out of your own responsibility or out of your own awareness and decency as a human being? But this myth, this comfortable delusion that I can always take a way out, I can always escape, Because there is always a pariharam, there is an upay, there is surely a ring or a mala or a pilgrimage that will solve this. No, it doesn't. So should one not wear rings? Yes, generally one should not wear rings. Should one go on pilgrimages? Every chance you get. Because pilgrimages are usually to very, very powerful kshetrams, and the engaging with the kshetram and being suffused with the energy of the kshetram is shifting and dissolving and moving a lot of things. But if you are going for the pilgrimage that I did this horrible thing and now I am going here to make recompense, it doesn't work like that. No doubt it's very good that you've gone on the pilgrimage, but the horrible thing you did will have horrible consequences. I know this is not a popular view, this is not a comfortable view, but unfortunately it happens to be the truth. And as yogis, we cannot live in delusion, we have to go for the truth every time. So what does that say in how we should live? Nothing. It only says live in awareness. Because if you grasp this centrality, that every action will have a consequence and there is no escape from it, then you will be very careful about your actions. How you spend your time, what you do with your life, you will become very, very careful about it. And while theoretically people may understand karma and everything, they don't really, at a deep level, they don't feel how it functions. They don't experience how it functions. When you actually start seeing the difference, when you actually start experiencing karmic streams, when you come to a level of intensity with yoga where you can see the karmic lines of energy between you and another person or between you and your environment, then you become exceedingly careful what you do. Karma is a way that the universe forces you to become responsible. Karma is a method of the universe that it teaches you that there is no way around it. No exceptions are made, not for anybody. Now it might look so. It might look so that nasty people are flourishing, the wicked shall flourish like the green bay tree, that's in the Bible. And it might look like good people are suffering, but not necessarily so. That is only from our perspective of this one lifetime of 70 years. And also human beings have a tendency to do nasty things to each other. That is not the universe's fault, that is the fault of human beings choosing the comfortable path. But nobody escapes. This is the iron law, this is the one law of the universe. The gods are subject to it, the whole universe is subject to it. This is the only actual law of the universe. That every action will have an inevitable consequence. And if it were not so, the universe would be a ghastly place, it would be a terrible place, it would be an evil place. Because if it were not so, it would mean that jiski lathi hai uski bhais, might is right. And I can assure you that's not true. And through history we always see people think that they are invincible, people think that nothing can ever touch them. Societies think so, civilizations think so. And we've been around from the time of ancient Egypt. Somehow India is continuing. The religion is continuing, the spirituality is continuing for this one reason. This is the one thing that India understands, because we have put the centrality of consciousness and the centrality of karma into, this is what we are based around. Our entire life is based around this. And which is why we don't fall apart. Not that we also didn't misuse and not that we also didn't suffer, we did, and very good. whatever hell we went through, we deserved it. But the centrality of consciousness is the uniqueness of India, and the centrality of karma is the uniqueness of India. And that is the reason why we see of practically every civilization and culture that has been around, and there is a unifying consciousness, or there is a unifying culture, there is a unifying spirituality that endures. And this is the core, because we know actions have consequences. So beyond a point we cannot push it. Beyond a point in India we won't go. Today we are seeing that people don't believe anymore in this, and people are mistaking the notion of karma, but the notion of karma used to hold people in check. We were not a conquering civilization for that same reason, because beyond a point this becomes negative. Somebody like Samudragupta, he conquered every single king in India, and then he would set them right back on their throne. You just pay me annual tribute and you accept. You are now my deputy. That's something that happens only in India. That sense of maryada, that sense of this much and no further, that's very deep in India. We understand that better than any other civilization. Not when it comes to God. Over there we are insane. We will do any crazy thing to attain God, we will break everything, but we will never break maryada. There is that deep sense of what is appropriate and what is not appropriate, which unfortunately we are losing today. We are losing that. It was instinctive in India, maryada. There is a karmic limit, you can't go beyond that. If you go beyond that, the whole universe will push back at you. And we used to know that very well. Today we don't. It's a great tragedy. But given how yoga is reviving, I am not too unhappy. Within 2 generations we will get that back. I am reasonably sure we will get back that notion of maryada in no time at all. But this core thing has to be understood. Goodness is not cancelled by badness, and badness does not destroy goodness. Both run simultaneously. Both play out simultaneously. Sometimes the bad aspect or the bad consequence of certain karma is playing out. That is when your life is in hell. That is when you are having all the traumatic episodes. Sometimes all the blessings are playing out. Some people seem to be permanently in the good place. Some people seem to be permanently in the bad place. But it is fair. It is brutally fair. There is no favoritism, there is no appeal, there is no escape clause. And I really like that about our culture. I really like that it fundamentally our culture is just. We don't make exceptions. I know many people are going to be so deeply disappointed. I'm going to make a lot of people very unhappy. But it had to be said. Sarvam Shivam.